So let's talk about excessive consumerism. I think I've already shared some of my journey with my shopping addiction, and I think I touched upon the rampant consumerism that is happening nowadays. I talked a little bit about shaming, and I shared how you may feel like you have to purchase certain items in order to fit in and in order to impress others. But the overall tendencies of the modern consumerism are pretty troublesome. If you look at the modern market, you will see that it is looming with all kinds of products. And I think I shared a quote, and I'm going to include it in the description down below, from Marx's philosophical and economic manuscripts of 1844, where he eloquently described the issue, where he talked about how the needs are artificially created under a capitalist mode of production, and humans are seeking out all the ways they can manipulate each other into buying something that they don't actually need. And we see this every day, even if you think you're not a victim of ads and commercials. I have bad news for you. Now, the modern marketing techniques or strategies are not meant to just sell you a product. They're meant to create a certain image of themselves that would be left as an imprint in your subconscious mind or the unconscious mind. So if you look at modern ads and commercials, they always try to create a certain vibe. Brands always try to target themselves as a certain entity that is ethically or morally superior to the rest, or that are somehow special. And they want to convince us that we want to align with this view. And it is ideology. Even if you think you are completely free from ideology bias, modern marketing, again, would have you disappointed because it probably seeped into your unconscious or subconscious mind, and now you do have these associations. This brand is, insert an adjective. And where did you get these ideas from? The brand itself, most likely. And the use of influencers is also quite rampant here. These people are there to sell you products. They're not there to actually give you reviews of products. They're there to sell you products. That's all there is to it, unfortunately. And if you're still not convinced that the marketing is pervasive nowadays, let me give you an example. If you were in a foreign country where you didn't speak the language and you couldn't read the language either, and you went to the store and you were thirsty, and let's say the drinks are very limited, and you see two options. One, a local brand that has a name you can't read and you don't know anything about it. And the second option is a drink that is known to you. And I don't want to name any particular drinks, but insert any American drink in here. So what would you rather choose and why? So I think looking at this example really can give us a lot of insight into our collective unconscious. Now, some may argue and say, well, I don't know what's in that drink, in that local drink. Why would I risk it? Do you know all the ingredients in your American drink? Have you actually looked at those ingredients? Maybe you have, but most people don't read the ingredients on drinks. So this argument kind of falls flat. Another thing that pops into mind when you think of this made-up scenario is that, well, what's the harm if I choose something that's familiar to you? Well, think about all the micro choices you make in your day-to-day life. and think about all the resources that may be poured into those choices. Now, this should give you an idea of why being familiar with the brand and therefore picking that brand can be a very great strategy to sell you things. Now, again, some people will obviously choose the local drink out of the appeal to exoticism, meaning that they want to try something new and exotic, and they always want to go with something that's unusual, so to speak. But again, this is reverse psychology, and it is possibly falling for the reactance bias. Not always, but it's also not necessarily indicative of the issue. The issue here is that brands do want you to know them. They want you to be familiar with their names, and they want to create a certain image of themselves that sticks with you. And once they achieve that, they're able to manipulate you much more easily. Now, and that's not the only case where the rampant consumerism can get you. I mean, this is definitely minor. You do need products, and it doesn't really matter which ones you pick and why. However, if you look at all of the manufactured consent that we get nowadays, you will see that the rhetoric behind the products is becoming more and more pervasive, and it becomes very crude. Some of the commercials and ads that we see nowadays are really not great, and children can analyze these commercials and be like, seriously, does this work? And unfortunately it does, and we see that with the statistical data of many of these brand sales. We see that even if their commercial or their ad was in your face, blatantly manipulative, many people will still fall for that, not because the people are stupid, but because we are bombarded with all of this nonsense on the daily. And it's very difficult to kind of dig through all of that nonsense and find the kernel of truth, so to speak. So do not blame yourself if you have been a victim of marketing manipulations. We all have, and under capitalism, it's a normal, it's a given. It's not about you and your personal intelligence. It is about the overall trend of capitalism wanting you to buy and wanting you to depend on their products. And it's only going to get worse. It's not going to get better. They are going to find new ways to manipulate us and our children. Here's another thing of the children, little insert. But I do recommend you look at that quote from Marx, from the economic and from the philosophical and economic manuscripts of 1844, and see how it is still very true today. And Marx was able to see it a long time ago. So don't dismiss Marx, don't say that he's irrelevant, and let me know what you think of the rampant consumerism and all of the shenanigans that are connected to it.